His future was unknown, but whatever it was, he didn't feel equipped for it. Like, what did actual grown-ups do with their lives?
So, Marian, Grown Ups is about adulthood and how we get to be adults. What made you want to explore this topic?
Um, I think more that I was exploring the topic that no matter what age we get, we never really feel grown up in the way that we thought we would when we were kids. Because there are seven main characters in Grown Ups, and in a way, the younger ones seem to have a better grasp of how to live than the people in their 40s and 50. And I mean, I suppose I look at my own life, and in many ways, I've overcome some of the ways that I found life very confusing and very baffling when I was younger. But it's like my worries have changed, and I still have things that I still find confusing or overwhelming. Um, and I suppose I was trying to be compassionate about human beings. I think that a lot of us feel that we're doing life wrong. And what I was trying to say in this book was that we're all doing our best for, the situation that we're in.
I think a lot of readers will be able to identify with some of these themes that you explore, that feeling, well, I did as well, where you feel like it doesn't matter what age you are, that you're just not quite getting life the way that you thought you would. How do you make your characters so relatable?
Oh, that's a lovely thing to say, Andrea. Um, I, I suppose I know how flawed I am. I know that I am genuinely well intentioned, but I can see, that I have all kinds of things going on for me, like, you know, envy, um, laziness, um, and just a kind of an inability to behave like other people is often. I often feel like I'm the person who didn't get the rule book, um, and when I started writing my first book, I had no idea what I was doing, but I made my character flawed in the way that I was flawed, that I had petty jealousies, and that I had, that I could fall out with the people I love. And people identified a lot with that. And it gave me the confidence to realize that if I was going to keep writing, it was important to keep mining my own flaws and darknesses and broken bits and parts of me that I'm ashamed of, and write about them and give those aspects of me to my characters. So, you've probably noticed I'm not prolific. Like, I take a long time to write a book. And one of the reasons is that I spend time with characterization. Like, it's really important for me to go deep as well as to go forward. Um, and at the moment, I'm writing a book, and there's a friend of mine. I'm sending my stuff to her as I'm writing it, and she's frustrated because I don't have new batches for her regularly. And I'm trying to explain to her that rather than going forward, I'm going down. And that's where I spend my time writing. Less so with plots. For me, if the characters are convincing enough, that kind of takes care of the plot. They will lead the action. So I take time over it, I suppose, is the very short answer, but I gave a very long one. Sorry.
Please don't apologize. So one of the themes in the book is addiction. You've got one of the sisters-in-law, Cara. She's got bulimia, and she overeats. And then you've got Jessie, another of the sister-in-laws, who likes to shop a lot. She overspends money. So just talk to me a little bit more about this theme of addiction. It's something that you also explored in one of your other books, albeit it was with alcohol.
Yeah. I'll start with Jessie. And the thing is, I don't know if I would regard Jessie as an addiction rather than just a kind of a bad habit, in that, like, it's not ruining Jessie's life. And I have to put my hand up here and say I completely identify with Jessie. Like, I go to bed at 9:30 or 10 every night with, like, the plan to read, like, a good, important, improving book. And, like, I just get out my tablet and I go on Zara, and, like, I'm scrolling for hours, like, looking at dresses and looking at shoes and looking at earrings, and it's just, I am so happy. And sometimes I buy the things and, and sometimes they just stay in the basket. So I feel very virtuous when I don't actually press the purchase now button. And, whether I like it or not, and I suppose I feel ashamed of it, and it's something, I try to keep under control, but like, clothes and stuff like that, or skincare, it's one of my hobbies. And yeah, spending money, I like doing it. But I'm not at the stage where like, I've remortgaged the house 8 times and they're coming in the lorry to repossess everything. Cara's is a very different situation in that it is genuinely an addiction, like it's a mental illness. And I wanted to write about the way the book is structured is several of the characters in the book have secrets, and it's all about how they try and manage their secrets. And some of the secrets are less toxic than others. And money, Jesse's one, is always an interesting one, because I think an awful lot of us are attracted to money and stuff. And then infidelity is a kind of an age-old theme for books and shows and for drama. But I needed more than two. And so the idea of addiction is always interesting to me, because I'm an addict, like I'm an alcoholic in recovery. And I understand how awful it is to be trying to manage an addiction and to trying to be passing yourself off as normal. And I picked bulimia for several reasons. One, I have 2 friends who are in recovery from it. And 2, it's an eating disorder that tends to get overlooked, in that, like most eating disorders, they're characterized by extreme undereating or extreme overeating. And it's impossible to hide, like a person's body demonstrates where they are with their illness. But with bulimia, because there's overeating and then there's purging, it's possible to sustain that for a long time. And that's not a good thing. Living with an addiction is exhausting and it's a waste of a life. And I don't see voices being given to bulimia in the same way. And I wanted to write about it because I feel like if it's brought into the light, that more people might be able to get help for it. Because, coming back to what I said at the start, like living with an addiction it's such a complete waste of a life. I was never present when I was trying to manage my drinking, and Cara in the book is never present when she's trying to organize her life and to build in time to overeat and to purge, and and it takes up all the space in her head. Like she hasn't room left for her friends or for the people she loves. So, and I suppose, yeah, I always feel great sympathy, for people suffering with addiction. So again, I'm sorry, very long answer, but that was why, 2 main reasons for wanting to write about it.
So the book begins with this huge scene. It's a big family birthday dinner, and Cara's had a bit of a knock on the head and she starts spilling the secrets. Tell me, how did you imagine this scene?
Well, the thing is, I actually met somebody I worked with, got concussion, and she was unable to lie, for about a week. She couldn't stop telling the truth. And the way, like everyone in life, we get through by white lies. We don't want to hurt people, or we don't want to tell people we're late because we didn't want to come, stuff like that. To kind of function in a civilized society, we're all masking stuff all the time. And especially in a group of people who are like a family or a work group or a group of friends, we have parts of ourselves that we suppress in their company, because it's necessary in order to survive. And just the thought of a group of people, as there are at the beginning of the book, they're all at Johnny's birthday party. I wondered what it would be like if somebody suddenly couldn't stop telling the truth, and how that would impact their relationships with other people. But then the knock-on effect, as people try to save themselves, they start throwing other people under the bus. And I wondered as well, like, how do we survive when people tell us home truths, or we find out things that we didn't want to know? And And I mean, I really hope that people feel, by the end of the book that, you know, we can survive more than we think we're capable of. And that maybe it's not that difficult to tell the truth now and again.
You mentioned working on something new. Do you have anything else that you can tell us about that?
Yes, I can, Andrea. It's a sequel. And I've tried to write a sequel before. I tried to write a sequel to Watermelon, and I couldn't do it. I've always felt weird about sequels because I feel like my characters go through enough in each book. And by the end, they've gone through their stuff and they've got to a good place. And I feel like to go back in and tell their story again, it would be necessary to break them because there's no story without conflict. And so the book that eventually became The Break was meant to be about Claire and Adam. And I started writing it and I couldn't do it because I just thought they're happy, leave them alone, they're fine. And I really thought the idea of sequels were gone forever. But after I finished writing Grown Ups, I suddenly began wondering how Rachel was from Rachel's Holiday. And I wondered about her and Luke and how they were getting on. And, people have often asked, I've written a book about the Walsh sisters. There are 5 of them. Each sister got a book. And because I told each of their stories, it felt like there was no room for me to tell any more. But suddenly I felt, I don't know, ready. And so that's what I'm trying to write at the moment. And I am worried about it because it's a book that seems to have meant an awful lot to a lot of people. It seems to have helped a lot of people get clean and sober, or it has helped a lot of people understand, their relationship with an alcoholic parent. And a lot of people really fancied Luke, myself included. So I was daunted because I don't want to, if you love a book and then you read the sequel and the sequel isn't as good, I speak for myself, not only do I not like the sequel, my view of the original book becomes a bit jaundiced as well. But this seems to be going okay. I'm excited about it. Like it's more than 20 years on. Rachel is older, I'm older, my readers are older. So I hope that we'll all be able to kind of make that jump, that it isn't going to pick up where the last book finished. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit thrilling, to be honest with you. I miss it when I'm away from it, and I really like getting back to it. And Luke is still in it, which is kind of what everyone really wants to know. So yeah, he is.
Tell me as well, you're quite active on social media during the lockdown. I just want to find out from you, what have you been busy with and how are you keeping sane during this time?
Oh, God. I've tried to keep a routine. It was much, much harder in the beginning because my brain wouldn't work. And actually, there's an actual reason for this. Because we're all in fight or flight at the moment, it means that kind of the logical, rational part of our brain is running the show. Because we're scanning the horizon for danger, like we're trying to keep ourselves safe. And that means that the imaginative part of our heads has been, temporarily disabled. So I was finding it impossible to write and also impossible to read. And I've heard a lot of people say that. And it is kind of a biological reason, that people weren't imagining that they couldn't read or write. It was a response to these unprecedented circumstances. So in the last, I'd say about 3 weeks, I have been able to actually get some writing done. I try and exercise. This is very new for me. I am not this person, but I cook. Myself and my husband cook a fairly elaborate, and I mean fairly elaborate by our standards, which is not elaborate at all, a dinner every evening. We're there, we're weighing things and we're following recipes and trying new things. And that has been kind of very wholesome and enjoyable. What else? I watch a huge amount of telly, but there's no change there. I always did. And sometimes I go and I stand in my mother's front garden and shout in a conversation with her. Or sometimes, my nephews or nieces will come over to me and we'll have a socially distant, shouty hello. Like it's just so nice. And Zoom, I suppose Zoom. I mean, Zoom was such a miracle in the beginning, and then it all got a bit awkward and dreadful. You know, and we're locked into a Keyes Zoom thing every Saturday, and it is kind of weird because you know you can't read body language, and you know when you're with people in real life, you know you can sit there and say nothing, but if you're all looking at each other on the screen and nobody is talking, it's uncomfortable. And then four people try and talk at once and nobody can hear each other. um and I go to my AA meetings on Zoom. Now that is where Zoom is really, really fantastic. Um, and then there's hope. You know, I keep Googling lovely hotels and faraway places and thinking one day I'll be able to go there.
So, and you putting all these funny little videos on Instagram and...
Oh, yes.
This is Marian. Marian is a credulous gum. Don't be like Marian. Marian is panicking because she won't be going to the hairdressers for the next very long time. Marian bought a yoke from Babyliss to curl her hair. All she has done is get one curly yoke on this side and burnt it to a crisp on this side. We're going to try again on this side.
I mean, I adore skincare. I adore makeup. Like anything like that. It just makes me really happy, and I really care about it. Like, I mean, I am obsessed with dyeing my hair and the roots of my hair. You know, obsessed with cutting my fringe. And I know these things are really shallow to a lot of people, but they're my hobby. And yeah, I've put some things up on Instagram, which has been, you know, yeah, dyeing my eyebrows, stuff like that. It's been great fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's been really enjoyable for your fans, I'd have to say.
I'm really, really glad. And I hope, you know, you can see the shambles that I do with my own stuff. So like, hopefully that gives people confidence to think, well, I won't be as terrible as her. So yeah, that has been a real kind of source of, you know, jollity, I suppose, and joy, fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Marian, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.